Happy New Year's, RBGers. So Christmas was last week, but I like this hat, so I'm going to continue wearing it. We'll see how long it lasts, even if it does look goofy with this headset on. Today we're going to be talking about add-ons, and I've been holding off on doing this video despite having a lot of requests about my add-ons or questions about my add-ons. It seems like every video at least gets a question of what's that map add-on you're using off to the side, and we're going to talk a little bit about that one. But I'm going to do this a little bit different. I looked around on YouTube at some of the existing add-on videos for WoW and for PvP, and the general format that most people follow is, here's my list of add-ons, bam, 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 bam. They go through each one and talk about what they use it for. In reality, the add-ons that you use are kind of neither here nor there. It's up to you. It's up to your personal preference, with a few exceptions. There's a few add-ons that pretty much you need, at least in terms of RBGs, if you want anyone to take you, because they're just sort of the call it industry standard. But we'll go over some of those, but I also just kind of want to, like I do with most things on these videos, abstract it out a little bit and explain to you what you're looking for, or in other terms, what needs you have in RBGs to fulfill by add-ons. And so you can kind of say, well, if I don't like the one that he's using, I can pick my other one as long as I set it up to fulfill those needs. So we're going to kind of go with that format. Here is the agenda. One thing that I appreciate about add-ons videos is somebody who gives an agenda up front, so that I know of whether or not they're going to cover an add-on that I've never heard about. First, we're going to be talking about BGT. That is pretty much a necessity for RBGs. Then we're going to talk about Gladiator. I always screw up this name. Gladiatorlssa 2. Now that one is the one that I use, but stick around for that part, because I'm going to talk about why I use it and some options or alternatives you could use if you're not a fan of that one in particular. We're also going to talk about configuring it in such a way that your mind doesn't get blown the first time you open it up. And then lastly, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite and probably the cornerstone of my channel, the reporter add-on. So stick around for each of those sections if you wish, and let's jump into it. So the first add-on you want to get if you're going to be running RBGs, and pretty much every video that I've seen covering RBGs, add-ons, I think will agree with me, hopefully, is that you need to get the Battleground Target add-on. You can get this from Curse. I'll put a link in the description below, but to be honest, it's easier just to get the Curse client and look it up there. The Battleground Target add-on, most people believe, is just for following the target caller, but it's got a few uses that are incredibly beneficial to you and your team if used efficiently. So I want to shed some light on those. As soon as you load into a battleground, you're able to see their entire team. But not only that, but you get to see their classes, their specs, their health. Lots of information. The more you configure it, the more you can see. Right from the beginning, if you're a strat caller, that tells you information that is useful for planning your strategy. It tells you their comp, their spec, which of them is likely to be the FC. You can derive a lot of important guesswork off of how they're going to approach the battleground, who's going to go where, right from the beginning, just from that information. Could you get it through other add-ons? Sure, but you're already getting this add-on because it's just sort of the staple add-on for RPGs in the first place. If you're a target caller, a lot of target callers spend their initial moments in a BG clicking through the healers, picking out the juiciest one, the one that they're thinking, we're going to nail this guy while we CC out the others. They're looking at health bars, they're looking at specs, etc. The healers will look at the DPS in this group and think to themselves, is there going to be a lot of magic damage that we need to mitigate? Is this going to be a dot cleave that we're going to have to dispel a ton? Is this going to be more of a melee cleave where we're just going to be running? And they will adjust their specs and talents at the beginning of the battleground according to what they see. Everyone else is, a lot of them will like to sit back and think, well, this is just so that I can sit back and click on whichever target the target caller calls. The reality of this is that if you're sitting at a base, The benefit of having the BGT add-on is that you can click on targets on the other team, and even though you can't see them on the map, it'll let you target them. And if you have a nameplate add-on, you'll be able to see where they are. And I've had a lot of BGs won based off of just having a smart base hitter who's clicking through, while he's paying attention to his flag, making sure nobody caps it, but he's clicking through and keeping track of all their stealthies. Are they sitting a base like we expect them to, or are they pushing somewhere, and giving us early warning, just being able to use this add-on efficiently. Also, as a target caller, I didn't mention this before, but it also gives you stats on how many people are on your target. If you've ever been called out for not being on the target, and you've wondered how are these people big brothering you, it's because of this add-on here. It calls out the number of people on each target at a given time. And so when a target caller starts to rant a little bit because no one's on his target, he's generally justified because he's got the information right there. All in all, this add-on is largely about the team fight, but not only about the team fight. Learn to use it efficiently, and you will get your bang for your buck out of this. And if you don't have it, get it, because if anyone catches you without it, then basically it says to whoever's running any RBG that you didn't care enough to do your homework up front. It's just a mandatory add-on for all RBGs that are, anything more than YOLO. Even with YOLOs, they generally expect you to have this. So in order to configure Battleground targets, you can do this outside of a Battleground, but really you want to be able to check how it's going to look, and do that properly, you have to be in a Battleground. But I'm going to bring this up outside of a Battleground just so you can see kind of the settings, and I can do it without anybody on my team yelling at me for going AFK while I do so. In order to bring up the settings for Battleground targets, you could just open chat and do /BGT, and that will bring up this menu here. And it's been a long time since I installed this. I don't exactly remember what are all the defaults, but I want to call your attention to a number of checkboxes here that may or may not be checked. In my case, I like them because I like the more information. So here I can have the role, I can have the realm, whether or not they've used their PvP trinkets, the specialization for each of the classes that they, etc. I can bring up target counts, which is good if you're a target caller at all. You want to know how many people are on your target. I also like showing health bars, percentage, and the range. If it'll fade out if they're too far from me, and that kind of gives me an idea of where the team fight is, and or it hasn't moved, and do I need to get a little bit closer sometimes just by looking at this. And you will have settings for 10v10, 15v15. I don't really use this for Alterac Valley, so 40v40 I haven't really messed with. Okay, I guess that those might be the default checkboxes because I never really messed with those. But by default it doesn't give you much. But what it does give you, in a sense, is this down here in the right corner, and you can move this around your screen if you like. If you want it up, some people like it in the middle so they can more easily click things, target them. But and you can change the size of everything. You can change. There's tons of customizations here, and you can even do it for friendly players. I don't use it for friendly players for the most part. I just have it for targets. But play with this. Find something that works for you. I would say at the very least, you're gonna want roles and targets, and health bars are kind of nice at the very least. And then basically what you can do here, and I'll show you this once we get into a BG, is you can click on individuals from here, even from the very beginning, and see where they're going. If I go into an Arathi Basin, and right from the beginning I'm clicking through, I can, without even seeing the other players on the map or from visually, I'll be able to see at least their nameplates and which direction they're going around the map already, unless they're in stealth. If they're in stealth, it doesn't quite work, but already I can kind of guess how many are they sending to LM, how many are they sending to BS, who, if anybody, are they sending to mines, etc., and who's sitting a base. And that information right from the beginning can allow you as a strat caller to change things on the fly so that you're not overwhelmed by, superior numbers wherever you went. So this isn't the best BG to show this on, but I just loaded in to this it's a regular BG, and I'm able to click. Like, I can't see any of their team. They're off at, on the beach, but I'm able to kind of click through, and most of them will show up with their nameplate, and I can see where they're at. And you can see how this would be useful in a nodes map like AB or Gilneas. Already you can see how many, or who on my team is targeting who. Looks like we're beating up on this DK to begin with, but he's on the other side. But if you've ever been in a battleground where it seemed like nothing was dying because nobody was ever targeting healers, well, screenshot this, and then you have your proof. Oh, looks like we're beating up a priest. A couple people are on that priest. So starting this battleground already, by being able to see their team, I can see they've got 2 healers here. I can, as a target caller, I can prioritize which healer I'd like to kill in an actual team fight. This is a regular BG, so the reality of team fights is a proper team fight is kind of slim. I can see they have some pretty heavy hitters in terms of melee. If I were a healer, I wouldn't spec so much for, they do have 1, 2, 3, 4 casters to worry about, but the rest of this melee is going to hit hard, so I'd worry mostly about that. Lots of good information here just to take into consideration at the beginning of a BG. I also like being able to look at names. If you RBG a lot, then you'll see that sooner or later you start to recognize names on the opposing teams that you go against quite frequently. Yeah, I could get all that information from the scoreboard, but it's just kind of nice to see it in this format as well. The next add-on I want to talk about is Gladiatorlssa SA2, or sometimes I've heard it called Gladiatorlssa. But either way, whatever you call it, it is an add-on that calls out when things happen. And this is the need that you need to fulfill with some sort of add-on. You don't need to use this one if you don't like it. There are other options. I've heard of other add-ons such as PvP Sound, one called Plate Buffs, another one called Tell Me When. There's a bunch of different add-ons that are all kind of different, but fill this need in one way or another. The idea is that you need something that will tell you when different things are happening during a team fight. For PvEers, this is not a foreign concept. For years, people have run with deadly boss mods that will call out or print in big bold letters across your screen when the boss is about to hit you for all of your health bar, or when there's something that a healer needs to dispel on someone else. You need that just as much in a competitive RBG scenario, but it's discounted by a lot of RBGers because you don't have just one boss to worry about. You have the entire other team, and that's just an information overload for a lot of people. Arena players are a little bit more amenable to this because in arenas and competitive arenas, you're tracking more and more information, and there are add-ons like this that are even specialized for arenas for tracking just the incoming CDs and the cooldowns and the CC cooldowns of your teammates and also the enemy team, because there's only 2 or 3 people there. So they're used to doing that, even keeping track of it in their head sometimes. But anyone that says, oh, I'm just going to look at the character or my target and look for that big bubble that pops up, is generally handicapping themselves. Some spells don't have a big animation and they slip past, and yet they will wipe your entire team. Some spells are maybe not coming from your main target, they're coming from a caster that's off to the side. You might be focusing a healer, and yet some mage is off to the side, glacial spiking somebody else for their entire health bar. And you need, if it's your job to interrupt those, then you need to have a little bit of a call out so that you know to quickly swap over, maybe make them your focus and do a quick interrupt and then get back on the target. So ideally, the needs you need to fulfill with such an add-on are, it's got to be able to tell you when certain things are happening from any player on the enemy team, even if it's not your main target. So in my case, one thing that I've worried about a lot this last season is a counter-strike totem. A counter-strike totem that gets ignored because it's well placed or hidden, that's near a team that's doing a lot of damage, will pretty much delete somebody when it shocks them. And so you want to know, it's not a hard thing to go and hit that, or just kill that counter-strike totem immediately. On teams that I've played with, I've had people just kind of watch the shamans. As soon as anyone drops it, even if you can't get to it, you call out counter-strike totem, and then somebody, generally an S-priest, would go and Shadow Word Death it or something like that. It's only got 10 health, but we needed to know when that was happening, and usually the shaman wasn't our main target. We're on a healer or something like that. So it's got to be able to tell you about those major incoming damage sort of things, just like deadly boss mods. It's got to tell you about things that you should be interrupting, like glacial spike or chaos bolts. It's also got to be able to tell you about major defensive cooldowns like pain suppression, monk bubble, paladin bubble, all of those things where if you sit there and continue to DPS on the target, you might be able to DPS through it. Some of those things I do want to point out are percentages. It's not some bubble you can just burn through with enough damage, but it's actually mitigating an entire 40-some% of your damage, stacking. And so it is kind of a waste to be burning your burst cooldowns on such a target when you could go on one target, get a couple cooldowns on them, swap on another, wait till those cooldowns come off, and then get back on the target when they're fresh out of cooldowns and get a quick kill. And I've done other videos about that in the past. I'll link a few in the cards. But this is the sort of thing that you want from this sort of add-on. I like this one personally because I can set it up so that it tells me about certain things coming from my target and my focus. The danger of such an add-on within RBGs is that there is so much information coming in that it can be an information overload for people, and it makes the game not terribly fun to play because they're trying to keep track of too much. And so if you set this one up, and I'm going to go through it, how I do it, you can set it up so it just does your target and your focus, which for me is enough. Ideally, I'd like to be able to set focuses, multiple focuses, foci. Does that work? I want to be able to know about certain things from certain people all at once. You might have better experiences with different add-ons. I haven't experimented with them all. If you do use some of these other add-ons that I mentioned or something else that you think fits this niche, let me know in the comments below for the benefit of everybody watching this. And let's talk about that. Let's see what people are using more. But me personally, I like using the Gladiatorlssa SA2 add-on. It just kind of keeps calls out in a not a terribly loud voice, but kind of off to the side, something I can still hear that I can tune into on important incoming things that I need to deal with, and that helps me immensely in team fights. And I think that if you get a team where everybody is running some sort of add-on that helps them do this, then you're gonna see an increased proficiency in your team fights. You're gonna see more kicks. You're gonna see people on targets that are not stacking loads of defensives all the time. You're going to see people being able to play their class better, and as well as mitigate a lot of the incoming damage to themselves. So I encourage you to check something out about this. And again, let me know in the comments below what you think and what sort of add-on you want to use for this. I said at the beginning of this video, I didn't want this to be use these add-ons as a package deal, but to kind of inform you about the sort of needs that you will have during RBGs. And this is one that I think gets overlooked all the time, just because if you set up an add-on wrong, it's going to tell you about everything all the time, even the stuff that you don't care about. One of the just quick funny story, I set up Gladiatorlssa for the first time, and then I ended up in an Alterac Valley battleground, 40 people, all of their cooldowns, all of their spells being told to me, and it was just nuts, you know, giving myself a migraine from day one. And that was a lot of motivation for me to go figure it out, rather than just to uninstall it, because I knew I wanted this add-on. I knew I wanted something to fill this need for me in my team fights. When you get into an RBG for the first time, under Interface, under the Add-ons tab, look under Gladiatorlssa, and you'll want to hit Load Configuration. And at first it's going to seem like it didn't do anything, but in fact it did. It puts this little plus sign next to the entry, and if you hit that, now you have some sub menus to look at. So we have General, Abilities, Custom, and Profile. The main one that you want to start with is actually Abilities, and you want to look for, if you're going to do it the way I do it, you go under each of these tabs: buffs, buffs down, casting, special abilities, and there's this checkbox for target and focus only. If you don't have that checked, then all of these other checks are going to get announced for everybody on the other team. And that can be very cumbersome. If you're getting too much information, then I advise you don't give up. Just go in and uncheck things you don't care about. Things like when a rep pally mounts up, midfield. They have an ability for that now. Then you can uncheck that, because that's not really a big thing. You want to know about like CS totems and glacial spikes, all the things that I talked about earlier. You can hear in the background, hopefully, a woman's voice, and that is Gladiatorlssa announcing. Oh, I'm getting beat up.
Countered.
It'll tell me when I've countered different things, when I'm spell locked.
Countered.
Just countered that lock there. Stack a few UAs on him.
Sacrificial pact.
Yeah, there's no drain lifing that. Come on. I'm still alive. The Gladiator is particularly useful when trying to kill rogues, because then I know when cloak is up and down. As a spellcaster, that's kind of an issue.
Kick.
Also, when they pop Vendetta and Kingsbane and all their big cooldowns, I know when to pop my own defensives. Lastly, I want to talk about the Reporter Battleground Map add-on. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos on this channel, you have seen this one in effect for quite some time, and it is kind of what I've built my channel around. Without this add-on, there isn't a lot that I can point to in RBGs to talk about what's going on aside from what's around me immediately. And being a warlock, I end up sitting a lot of bases. So this add-on, not only for YouTubing, but is also great for just RBGs in general. First off, I want to say, if you are running RBGs or any kind of battlegrounds, regular battlegrounds even, if you're running without a minimap at all, then next time you get into a BG, hit Shift M to bring up the default minimap, and that'll bring up this, really tiny rectangle that's just got a little mini map, and it's got dots for your team's players, along with some others, sparse information. It isn't that much, but it's a start, and just doing that, you're gonna play a lot better. particularly in maps like Silver Shard Mines, where knowing which carts are about to cap next is important information. But if you want to go to the step further, then I highly encourage you to get this add-on. Again, this is Reporter with a capital R-E-P, and you can find this also from Curse. All these add-ons that I've talked about you can find from Curse, and I'll put links in the description, but again, you can find them on the Curse client. And I like the Reporter add-on, particularly because it gives me a nice big map that doesn't dominate my screen, but it's big enough that I can actually see what's going on. And in the settings, you can size this map down or bigger if you want. But in general, the things that it brings to the table over the default map UI is information such as incomings. I no longer have to rely so much on people calling inks, because anytime there's conflict at like a node or a cart, it puts a big red circle, there on the map. It will also tell me who's taking damage and who's not. If I have somebody en route to a node, but they get jumped by a rogue or something, and they don't say anything about it, I can see what's going on there. If you're a strat caller, I would say this one is just about mandatory. If you're not a strat caller, it's harder for me to make the argument, but I still highly encourage you to get it, because there's nothing more frustrating as a strat caller than having somebody, during maybe a losing Arathi Basin, somebody says, "We need to push stables right now." And I'm looking at the map, and there's just no options there. We're all being graveyard camped somewhere in mines or farm or something like that. People who have no context of the battleground, no battleground awareness, will make claims and point fingers plenty of times. And they'd do better off if they had some sort of map like this, so that they know, I got my hands tied here. I can only do so much strategically if the other team is just destroying us. So, it helps from that sense to have a little bit of empathy for your strat caller, but also to know what's going on and to be able to make good suggestions. If you are a savvy RBGer, then even if you're not the strat caller, you can look at the map and say, hey, we should try and push this or try and do that. You can also look and react to inks yourself. And, the less I have to do as a strat caller, the less I have to micromanage, the better. Because the reality of gaming in general is there's only so much I can think about at once, and I gotta play my own class too. I'm a little busy dotting stuff up and CCing and spinning the flag, and if I'm in the middle of a team fight, I'm a little busy. And so having other people who are able to just have that battleground awareness to call stuff out that I might miss is incredibly valuable. It also brings a few more things to the table. Along the side are some buttons and it's different for every battleground, but you are able to stand next to a node and click buttons that will automatically print into chat where you are and incoming. So, in rated battlegrounds, if you're doing it properly with everybody in voice comms, you don't need these so much. But if you're more of a YOLO player, this is effectively what BG Defender add-on does, if you're familiar with that one. It's just a set of buttons that make it so that you don't have to type anything when you're being ganked by a rogue and you're the sole defender at a base, or a minecart for that matter. It works for Silver Shard Mines as well. And it's all proximity based. So, give that a try. This has been a great add-on, even if you're not a YouTuber like myself, but you just record anyway to kind of see what's going on. This add-on gives me so much insight into what's going on, who's doing what. You're effectively able to kind of big brother everybody else on your team. If I'm running with new players that aren't terribly good at following my strat calls, I can call them out by name when they're not doing what they should, because I'm able to see everything on here, and I don't have to open up my big map that takes up my whole screen in order to do so. When you're starting up for the first time with Reporter on every BG, on a new character, it's going to show up here in the middle, but you just kind of click it and move it off to the side wherever you like. I put mine over here. You can see all these buttons here that I was talking about earlier. If I'm sitting a base and I click 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, then it will automatically, down in the raid chat, announce that somebody's incoming, or let's see, I think C is for clear, H is for help. So I mean, it'll just say, hey, I need help at Fell Reaver or Mage Tower or whatever. Those are pretty nice. You can see the flag pretty clearly. You can see each of the towers. If any action is happening near these towers, it'll put a big red circle around there, which is nice and helpful. If you hover over dots, you can see health percentages, which is kind of nice. Granted, this is my own team. I can see all those, you know, down here or down here. This is grid, by the way. But just being able to, from a strategic point of view, look at people's health in terms of where they are on the map is kind of nice. I've also got BG Defender here. This is kind of redundant because I've got these buttons here. I could probably uninstall BG Defender now, but if you don't go with the Reporter add-on, then you can go with BG Defender. I can also right-click on nodes and do incomings that way. Why you would do that, I don't know, but I could say attack and say everyone attack Mage Tower. So I can not only call inks, but I can also give directions. If you're running a YOLO, this is a great add-on to start with. If you bring up your add-ons under interface, under reporter, you can play with the map size. It apparently moves the map as well, but you know, I can make it bigger, put it over to the side again. You can change the transparency if you wish. There's a few other options here, but just know that these options are available to you. Here I can see I've got a pretty good group pushing up to Draenari Ruins. Got a group in mid. This kind of information is really helpful. Even if I'm not the strat caller, now that I'm rezzing, I can kind of tell where needs help, where I should go. So in summary, those are more or less the essential add-ons that I would say you need for RBGs. They're the ones that I use to fill particular niches. Whatever add-ons you go with, you need something that's going to help you get on target and find enemy players. To this day, I haven't seen anything better than Battleground Targets, and most people I play with would agree with me. You need an add-on that will help you to be alert and time your CDs during a team fight. There are a plethora of add-ons that you can check into. Read the comments section below if anyone's been giving suggestions down there. But you need something, because there's a lot of people that go into PvP, go into RBGs, and basically are the equivalent of somebody doing mythic raiding, you know, multi-tier mythic raiding without deadly boss mods. That's really how it feels, playing with people like that, because they're blind to so much that's going on that will effectively wipe them and the entire team. They're also blind to things that are happening on the target that are preventing them from taking damage, and they get frustrated with not getting results for all their burst, and it's just sort of a recipe for disaster. So look into something to fill that niche, please. Please do so. And lastly, you need something to help you with Battleground Awareness. Not all battlegrounds are as open like Arathi Basin, where you can kind of see most of the map and what's going on. You need something that will tell you about what's happening at individual nodes, individual bases. You need something that will tell you where carts are going in, say, Silver Shard Mines. You know, at the very least, get the default minimap. It doesn't take up that much space. Shift M, bring it up, start with that, and other than that, my favorite one to replace that is the Reporter add-on. So give that a try. I know every video I've put out with it has had at least one comment saying, hey, what's that map add-on? Because it's not as popular for some reason. It just A lot of people haven't seen it or used it much, but it is very, very useful, even if you're not a strat caller. So give that a try. A few honorable mentions I wanted to bring up in case you're looking for more add-ons. I'm not going to go through what all of these do, but they are add-ons that I use in my arsenal, and that you can look up and check them out, see if they're particularly useful for you. We have tidy plates, smart targeting, healers have to die, BG spy, and BG defender. I won't, bore you to tears with descriptions of all of those, but do check them out on Curse or through the Curse client. Thanks for joining me again this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know down in the comments section below. It may take me a while to get around to them. I only do one video a week, but I am consistent and I do read those. This one in particular was in response to several requests. So let me know what you want to see or what you want me to talk about. Drop me a like, subscribe, share. I think this is a great video. If you're a guild master or somebody that runs some sort of web page that's oriented towards getting guildies into PvP for the first time, this is a great starter point for many people because, add-ons are kind of something that you build upon and grow over time. So I appreciate any help that you can give me to kind of just spread the word of this channel and help a lot of people grow in their ability to be competent RBG players. So thanks again, and I will see you next week with another video. I'm driving a truck. I'm driving a truck. Driving a truck to the gate. Driving a truck. Driving this truck, 'cause I'm gonna blow up the gate.